This is Lisa from Mobile Tech Review, and we're going to look at something different. Yes, sort of the same in a way, because we've reviewed a lot of Android Wear watches and Samsung's Tizen smartwatches. This is the Apple Watch, finally here. Still impossible to get. You can't even pick it up in a store as of release date, but this is the 38mm sport model, obviously with the white sport band. We're going to look at it now. So here it is, another wildly talked about gadget from Apple. This is the Apple Watch. Finally here, April 24th is the official launch date, but you won't find it in Apple stores. There are a couple of really high-end frou-frou department stores that are going to carry it, one in Tokyo, one in Berlin, one in LA, a couple in the UK, like Selfridges. You get the idea, but Apple supposedly pre-sold 1 million of these via pre-orders, and they don't have enough to stock them in stores. You can go see them if you want, and you can check out all the different bands and the 3 different fit and finishes. But to buy one, that's going to be kind of tough. Though I hear that's the 38mm Sport in blue and green are a little bit more available. This is the 38mm one. It's also available in 42mm. So Apple's one of the first companies that actually thought of the fact that women might want to wear these and did something about it, offering the slightly smaller size. Now, it fits me pretty well, I have to say, and I'm a tall woman. I'm 6 feet tall, but my wrists are not that big. 150mm is how it measures up, and Apple Watch is making us all obsessed with measuring our wrists now. So the band that it comes with fits pretty well for a woman, and the size doesn't look as gargantuan so far as the Android Wear and the Samsung Tizen watches. So in the box, you get the watch. You get the watch that doesn't like to power up too often. It has an accelerometer, so when you pull it up to your wrist, it's going to turn on. If you press the crown button, it's going to turn on. If a alert notification, something like that comes on, it'll briefly turn on. There is no timer right now, so you can't set it to stay on longer. Apple was a little overly cautious there, trying to preserve battery life. We'll talk more about the display later. If you get the Sport Edition, you get this long box right here. We usually don't show boxes, but you know, it's kind of interesting. The stainless steel version comes in a big square box. The Apple Watch Edition, that is the one that starts at $10,000, well, more power to you, those of you who are so gifted in business that you've made that much money. I have not even considered buying a $10,000 watch. Plastic here, but it looks kind of nice. You can open it up and then your watch is inside there, nestled in. This whole package is like heavy. I swear to God, it's over a pound. It's pretty impressive. And inside you get the charger and some documentation in here. So it's nice packaging, and this is what our charger looks like. Decent length of cable. It uses your standard kind of iPhone 1 amp charger. At this end, it's detachable as ever. So yeah, you could mix and match with your iPhone charger. And this is the magnetic charging base right here. Pretty easy. Just drop it right on, charges it up. Simple, very simple. So clearly this is what it looks like when the watch is turned off. When it's turned on, you see your watch face. Now see the little blue lock symbol up top? It's a little hard to see. If it's not on your wrist, you can have it lock and require a PIN code. Now, there it is, prompting for the PIN code. Now, why does Apple do this? Well, they have a history of making cool gadgets that people want to steal. So that's one consideration. The other consideration is that you can use this with Apple Pay. So instead of whipping out your iPhone from your pocket and fiddling with it and holding it against that point of sale terminal, you can do that with your watch, which is arguably a lot easier actually than trying to get the iPhone in the right position. So even if you put this back on right now, and I put it on, it's still going to stay, and it uses the sensors underneath to know when it's on a wrist. It doesn't know whose wrist it's on though, so in case somebody swiped it off your wrist and put it on theirs, it's not going to unlock until you put in the passcode still. We still have the blue lock symbol, and it's going to ask me for a PIN code right there. So good security right there. I mean, obviously you have personal data on this sort of thing because it syncs your contacts, your calendar appointments. A lot of third-party apps. There's already 1Password, a popular password application for this, so it's good to keep it secure. About the sensors on the back, these things are kind of high-tech, beautiful, I have to say. So we have heart rate monitor sensor, we got infrared sensors in here, we've got the sensor that just knows when it's on your wrist, therefore. And it does more granular sports tracking than any Android smartwatch currently on the market. We have the digital crown right here, as Apple calls it, and this is your contacts button. Interesting, there's just a button just for that. So the crown will wake it up. It also functions to take you back home from whatever you're in an application. Last thing to talk about, on the back here you see this little guy right here. It's so easy to take the bands off. It's like, why hasn't anybody ever done that? You just push that in with your nail, and then you can slide the band right off, like so. So I actually did that because I'm left-handed, so I wear this on my right arm rather than my left arm, and then the band would look kind of upside down, so I swapped it back and forth. So if you're thinking about getting different bands for this when they are more available, those are like on long back order right now too from Apple. It's pretty easy, and all 38 millimeter bands should fit all 38 millimeter watches. All 42 millimeter bands should fit all 42 millimeter watches. So as a size comparison, this is the Asus ZenWatch. I actually own this watch. It's one of the most affordable Android watches and not bad looking either. It's $200. You can see how much larger it is, 38 millimeter versus the Asus watch. The Asus watch is actually even bigger than the 42 millimeter, and that's the stock band that comes on there. Which leads to my discussion of not which platform's better. We'll have a smackdown for that. But the bands on the Apple Watch, God knows they're expensive. They're overpriced. This is the standard sport band available in several different colors. Fluoroelastomer is what Apple calls it, hypoallergenic, but very supple and also stain resistant. We've already seen videos where people have thrown red wine on it, soy sauce, everything that should stain a product doesn't stain. But so comfortable, so supple. It's very easy to get a good fit. And so far, I have to say, none of the other smartwatches that I've tried really were that great when it came to comfort and fit. A couple of the ones with the metal link bands, like on the Moto 360, yeah, if you're a woman, the metal link band doesn't look so great. Of course, there are the higher end ones. There are the leather bands. Some of them have magnetic buckles. Some with a traditional buckle. There's a lovely Milanese one, which is a very fine chainmail kind of looking thing, for lack of a better word, traditional metal. All of them, I tried them all on at the Apple Store. They all felt really good. So that honestly helps. If you're going to wear watches, it should be comfortable. One thing about the sport watch, it is aluminum. It's pretty darn durable. Again, we've seen people abuse this, try to scratch the heck out of it. This is not like the iPods of old that scratched easily. This would also be the lightest one because aluminum is light. Starts at $350 for the 38 millimeter, $399. Call it $400 for the 42 millimeter. There's always a slight price difference for the bigger one. The next step up is just called Apple Watch, and that one is the stainless steel model. So the casing is stainless steel, and instead of Ion X glass, it has the traditional sapphire crystal. Those are $500 and up. Depends on what band you choose with it. So if you're into stainless steel, that'll be a little bit heavier. That one also apparently is very durable. And of course, then there's the Apple Watch Edition with the 18-karat gold casing, and that one starts at $10,000. They all have the same brains. They all have the same internals. You're not getting better electronics or more features if you're spending more. So in the spirit of Apple trying to sell this like a piece of jewelry, that really is a difference between them, just higher class pieces of jewelry. Just like Android, where you're going to use your phone to manage a lot of stuff that's going on your watch. A bigger screen here, that's one of the reasons. Also, you're going to need an iPhone to use an Apple Watch. Just like right now you need an Android phone to make any good use of an Android Wear watch. Or with Samsung watches, you need a Samsung watch. Anyway, lots of things you can control right here. You can control the app layout for the whole cluster of applications that we're going to show you. You've got airplane mode, you got basic Apple Watch. Notifications, what you want to be notified of. Glances, you can control which things are going to show you glances, which is little snippets of information that you can see when you swipe up. Do not disturb, by default it's going to sync with your iPhone, and whatever you have set for your iPhone it's going to use, but you can have it run differently if you want. You can control your brightness and text size, make it bold if you want. Sound and haptics. The sound, the default notification is the same one you get with the iPhone for text messages, that little ding. And you've got haptics, of course. Apple likes to come up with fancy words for that, but it vibrates on your wrist. It's setting up the passcode right there, like I told you about, so therefore if you take your watch off, somebody will need the passcode. And all sorts of other stuff going on here. We have maps, we have messages, we have music. Now with music, you can sync one playlist with the phone. You can put up to 1 gig of music from the phone onto the watch so that you don't need to have them in range of each other on Wi-Fi or Bluetooth network. You can sync up to 75 gigs worth of your favorite iPhotos, are now called photos, and you can control that right here. Phone, you can make and receive calls on your watch. Now it has to be in range of the phone to do that. It's kind of like using a glorified Bluetooth speakerphone and headset. And yeah, it actually works. I had forgotten, left my phone inside, and I went out to do some yard work when bing, my mother called. And felt like Maxwell Smart, but I conducted the entire phone call on the watch. It worked. Workout, lots of health stuff going on there. We'll talk about that. And all these third-party apps, and this is what's going to make the iWatch a pretty hot thing, I think. Here it is on launch day, we have 3,000 apps, and they're pretty high quality apps, and a lot of apps on your iPhone will get updated to also support Apple Watch. When I set up the Apple Watch, I said, do you want to sync available watch apps that are available as companions to your existing applications? And I said, sure, go ahead. And you can actually control which of these gets sent to your phone and doesn't. So if you don't want some of these things on there, you don't have to have it. And the settings will vary depending on what application you're in. So there it is. And then if you want to look at featured applications, you can get an idea of the applications that are available. And you can do this on the web too if you want to see what's available for iWatch. But lots of good stuff already. It's only going to get better. It makes the watch more fun and more useful so far than the Android Wear watches have been for me, which pretty much rely on Google Now cards for most of the best functionality that's on there. There's a couple of things I have, New York Times, Appy Gamer, a few things that are cool on that, but nothing has really scaled well. Also, on notifications now, if I get a notification on the watch and I dismiss it, it disappears from my notification shade over here, which is nice. Now, I know some people are having some trouble with syncing that. Speaking of syncing, you pair the watch and the phone when you first get them together over Bluetooth. The watch also has Wi-Fi, and if these are both on the same Wi-Fi network, they can communicate with each other even if they're out of Bluetooth range. And that's worked so far pretty reliably. One of the problems I've had with my Android watches, which, except for the LG G Watch Urbane, they generally don't have Wi-Fi also, is you walk 20, 30 feet away, and there it is. Your watch tells time and doesn't know about anything else. So how does it look on the wrist? Again, 150 millimeter wrist, so probably average size wrist for a woman. It doesn't look big, it doesn't look huge. It's not a skinny watch, certainly, but it's not bad looking on the wrist. You can see how quickly it goes to sleep. That's my complaint right there. I need it to stay on a bit longer. Apple doesn't give you any settings for that. It's always going to sleep. So if it's just gone to sleep, you can tap it and wake it up. We have my favorite watch face here. I mean, who doesn't like a Mickey Mouse watch, right? Animated little guy. He taps at 1 second intervals right there. You can choose your watch face by doing a press and hold. Customize. Now each watch face also has customizations, so you can choose what information you want to have on your watch face. There's a traditional chronograph. I know you guys love that, and it's pretty full of information. All sorts of things like that are available. So on my watch screen, I've chosen upcoming appointments, and it says no events today. So you don't have to wonder, did it not sync? Does it not? No, it says no events today, so you know. I have an alternate time zone up there for China right now, handy, and I have the weather. So if I just tap on that section of the screen, that's pretty brilliant. It gives me a more detailed weather outlook. Now, one of the things I'd like to see is a little bit faster syncing and updating of data, but it gives you, it's clever using the watch metaphor, what it's going to be like at each point of the day. And when you see the ... at the bottom, it means you can swipe and get even more information. So I have Cupertino set as another one, for example. If I go back to our location, there's different views, so you can look at it like that. Pretty handy stuff. Now, glances, if you swipe up from the bottom, everything that's in glances comes up. So I have a New York Times app on here, so I have New York Times information. And all the little dots at the bottom indicate. There's a sad story. And the thing is, this needs to be quicker, doesn't it? So we tap on a story right there so you can see what it is you can actually do on the watch. You can actually even get pictures and read the beginning of the article, and you can get more on your phone. We have the glances to different time zones. We have stocks, and there's granular stocks. You can look at different things, not just Apple stock. You can get further data. You can get maps on here. This does not have a GPS built in. It will use the GPS on your iPhone. So that data will be piped over from your iPhone. So you can say, Siri, where am I? And she'll show you on the map. You can get directions on the watch too. Calendar and appointments. So again, you can choose all that. This is a health and activity. This is the way it likes to show it right here. I've been doing great for standing up, pretty good for moving around, but I haven't exercised yet today. So there's lots of useful glances. Touch the crown and voila, you're back home again. So press the crown when you're in the watch face screen, and here's all the apps that I have installed. Several of these are standard apps. You got your iTunes Music here, you've got the calendar, email, all those sorts of things. The Photos application, which is very cool. We have the health and activity, we'll look at it a little bit more. The phone application, you can iMessage people here, you can send them audio snippets, you can use the text, speech to text function on this. All works quite well. You can move these around, you can rearrange them, and as applications on your iPhone get updated to support Apple Watch, boom, they'll automatically appear. Like Skype just appeared late last night because Skype got updated to support the Apple Watch as well. I have my MLB at bat right there, so I can always keep up with my Red Sox scores. I have a unit converter on here. Got Twitter notifications. So the usual things a smartwatch does, a bit friendlier and a bit more sophisticated than we've seen so far, certainly. And again, third parties are looking pretty good here with their applications and enjoy them. So let's take a look at MLB. Of course, there are some games too if you want to play games on your watch. And there's my latest sports score. Now, if you're going for a workout, this is another thing that's pretty cool here. It's pretty sophisticated. For those of you who are thinking about getting a Fitbit or one of those other little fitness bands, this does a pretty darn good job. And it's not just using the accelerometer to figure out how far you walked or run. You've got outdoor walk, you've got outdoor run, outdoor cycle, indoor walking, indoor running, indoor cycling, the rowing machine. Yay! I've never been able to actually measure what I'm doing on the rowing machine. The elliptical machine's there, the stair stepper, and you've got other as well. And it also keeps track of your heart rate too. Now it checks about every hour or so. You can disable that if you want to save some power, but so far battery life has been fine on this, and I find it pretty interesting to check out my heart rate as I go along. Also, because of Apple's HealthKit stuff, it integrates with other things, so if you have a blood glucose machine, there may be an app that's available so you can actually use your watch to interface with that. The health implications can be pretty interesting here. So how does the watch notify you of things? Well, you can customize it, but since it has a speaker, it can actually do things like play alarms. You can use it as your alarm clock. You can set the alert volume here. Obviously, you can do the haptic feedback strength or taptics or whatever it is Apple likes to call it. It vibrates on your wrist. You can control the intensity of that. You can have prominent haptics for common alerts. Let's turn that on right now. Cover to mute. Say your watch starts going ding ding and you're at the movie theater. You just want it to shut up right now. You just cover the watch face. So it handles notifications pretty well, and we're very happy it can make sounds. So how do photos look on this? Like I said, we have the Photos app. Sorry, it doesn't play video. There's no Netflix, at least not yet, for your watch, but it looks quite nice, and you can use the digital crown to zoom, which makes more sense than just doing pinch zooming because you're kind of blocking your view right there. Oh, cute cat. I want to see him a little more closely. Oh. It's really a very nice screen. If you zoom all the way out, you can see a whole, well, a collage of everything that you've got on there in the way of pictures. So say I just want to see that one, tap on it, there it is. So nicely done, and a new way to share pictures of your beloved pet, grandkid, whatever it is with somebody, anything important that's visual. And there's already Instagram for the watch as well. And for more productivity sort of things, or just generalized useful things, we have Evernote, which so far is impressing me more than Evernote on Android Wear. So you can create a new note right there, and it can be voice dictation. And again, the voice dictation on this works pretty well. And I'm even using this left-handed, which in theory means the microphone and the speaker are upside down. Works just as well. So I've got all sorts of Evernote things, and here's a recipe. So I'm at the grocery store, and this actually really happened. I decided I was going to make this. So I just pulled this up on my watch instead of stopping, opening up my purse, pulling out my phone, unlocking it to look at the recipe. I just pulled it right up on the watch here, and I could see everything I needed to buy. So, you know, that's the thing about the Apple Watch. Just like any smartwatch right now, you don't need one. But the longer you use it, the more you start to want one. I've been using Android Wear watches for a while, and I really appreciate things like getting my social networking messages on here, getting email notifications without having to pull out the phone. With this, particularly being able to do the phone calls, also really nice, and handling Skype at this point, very sweet. But all sorts of things that you can pull up in terms of information without whipping your phone out of your pocket. Now, some of you may say, I have no problem taking the phone out of my pocket. Maybe the watch isn't for you. But for those who can appreciate how much easier, especially when you on the go, that this can make things, well, it's pretty cool. That and the health and fitness tracking stuff are the things that impress me the most about this. Do you need one? No. But you know, when the iPod first came out, did you need one? It was nice to have a portable music player, but you didn't have to have one. And suddenly everybody wanted one. I suspect that the functionality in the watch and the fun third-party stuff that's appearing on this already are going to make people want one, even if they don't need one. I will say that it takes about, if you haven't used a smartwatch before, about 2 or 3 days before you really start to get it and appreciate it. At first you're like, I don't know, how do I even use this thing? The watch application on the iPhone has several very good tutorials that really make it easy to get going with the watch. Then you start to get it and you say, oh, and then you get used to having the notifications on your wrist and being able to pull up recipes or having a phone call. And then you start to say, well, I don't think I want to give this up after all. So there were all sorts of rumors about how the Apple Watch was being delayed because the battery life was absolutely atrocious. It's not. It's not, folks. It's not fantastic. This is not the Pebble. This is not going to go 5 days. But honestly, I used it intensely for 4 hours, loading applications on it, looking at every possible feature it could do, looking at photographs on it, and it only used 16% doing that. So this charger here, this is probably something you're going to want to put it on every night, but I would be hard-pressed to imagine this not lasting easily a day, or, I mean 24 hours at that, but probably most people are going to be charging it once at night. So far, it's doing actually a little bit better than my Asus ZenWatch for battery life, which is pretty impressive. And this is a 38mm one. Perhaps it even has a smaller battery than the 42. So that's the Apple Watch, and surprisingly, I like it a lot. It's amazing what a difference several weeks makes. In terms of the early pre-release reviews, I mean, there were like no apps for this other than the built-in apps, which aren't bad. But you know, it's just like with the iPhone. I think the apps are what's going to make this guy. I'm Lisa from Mobile Tech Review. Be sure to visit our website for the full written review and subscribe to our YouTube channel.